Nirvana speaks the oracle, and I am saved. Thank you, listener, for memory.
So in this case, there's this quiescence that, for me, this sleepiness, when you just set the camera up, that says to me, that's telltale. I know that for decades now. That means, rather than think, well, hell, how am I going to have anything to say, or where's my energy going to be? I just want to take a nap. I really would just rather go to sleep. I don't really want to be doing this. When I feel that way, I can feel comfortable that no matter what, I'm going to be able to get up on the horse, launch the rocket, put the sails up and say, let the winds begin. Shelley's Aeolian lyre, where the Aeolian wind is playing across the lyre and training and playing the stilled strings. He's not playing the strings. The universe is, the ethers are, the movement, the breath of God is, and all the cognitions and intentions behind that in transhuman agency. And so what, for me, channeling is to get quiet enough, still enough, surrendering enough, sleepy enough, that I can be energized, I can be informed, I can be aimed, I can move from kind of scalar, non-directional, and yet kind of having information or being differentiated, kind of scalar wave or scalar energy to vectoral state, from kind of scalar waves to Hertzian vectoral waves, metaphorically speaking. And in that sense, I am. One needs to have the quiet center to give yourself over to, or be entrained into you, the quiescence of the quiet center, or entrain such that what you then have to say is not so much what I, Jon Klimo, in my normal, constrained, cosmologically dissociated, quantum decoherent state have to say. I think I have this to say, based on what I read in books and all my conditioning and all my punishings and all my other shit. No, it's what has to be said through me. It's, okay, I'm taking part in this willfully, consciously, joyfully. You now use me. I am your vehicle. I am your son, your offspring, in whom I would have you be well pleased, in part by my willingness to offer myself to you for this rather ignoble or noble experiment of using me. And how you're using me is, I don't know what you are. I don't know who I'm talking to. You're not an entity. You don't make yourself known to me. You're everything. You're everything and you're nothing. And you are that which allows me to have the insight to know that the everythings come out of the nothing, and how I am a something riding the waves, the surface differentiation of the deeper undifferentiated fathoms, the universalness, that I am the conscious surfacey waves, transiently, on your bosom, on your soma, on your psyche. And that I am a little teased up portion of this. And so what you on this film are seeing is the universal, or God in human form, working through the vehicle of Jon Klimo, somewhat given over to this process. You can say, well, who the hell do you think you are to talk like that? What is it, delusions of grandeur here? What are you talking about? I mean, we have places to put people like that. Plus, we have our priests and our special professionals who are part of the priestly knowledge, and they're the ones you should listen to. They're the ones with the PhDs, and they're the ones with the collars, and they're the ones with the whatever the hell they are, and that they're the professionals. And you're avocationally indulging in this, and there's limits to what we're going to let you get away with this. Because I'm making fun of that a little bit, because I think that's what keeps things so constrained in a problematic way. The two few of us stand forth and model what needs to be modeled in these tremendously nonlinear, far from equilibrium, hopeful times. The modeling being that presumption, not arrogance. I mean, most of my life I've led in abject humility and self-deprecation and doubting my own self-worth. I paid a lot of dues on the other end of the spectrum of whatever arrogance would look like, believe me, or taking anything for granted. I've never taken anything for granted. Doubted myself throughout the whole thing. But finally it's time to step forth more, and for more of us to step forth, and to represent without stopping being ourselves. I didn't kill myself, I don't have to kill myself, and I don't have to take any drugs or anything. I don't have to do anything. I just have to allow it to happen. What am I allowing to happen? Mind at large to come through the reducing valve that is a metaphor for my local psychoenergetic multidimensional system. It's not a skin encapsulated ego. It's sort of a myth that it's a contained thing, but for purposes of discussion, we'll call it that, because it feels that way on an average day anyway, from one frame of reference. And let the aperture of the reducing valve be dilated, such that more of mind at large comes through. Now, if you sort of do a dump, and let too much of mind at large come through, it's going to overwhelm the local cognition, the local language encoding capacities. It's going to overload all manner of things. It's going to smear out into a kind of an intelligent sounding person's version of speaking in tongues. Like, it's going to be the schizophrenic's word salad. It's going to be kind of a unipolar, slow the fuck down, we can't follow you. You're talking to yourself. You've got a private language game going there, and if you want to let the world in, or even talk to one other fellow human being, you're going to have to come more than halfway to us, and you're not doing that. I don't think so. I don't think the artist has to come halfway to the viewer, or to the listener, to the recipient, to the reader. I think the artist can do his or her own thing in spades, up to their eyeballs, in the yin-yang, as idiosyncratic as it needs to be, and offer it to people without pushing it down their throats, without proselytizing, without no pedagogy, just saying, here, in the next room, there's a piece by Klimo. Or if you want to get this CD, there's a thing of his there. Or if you want to see that movie, I think that there's a lot of stuff in there that might talk to you, or help you, or move you further, or catalyze you, or energize you. But I don't know. I can't tell you logically how that would work, what buttons it would push in you. But there's a kind of what Suzanne Langer, the philosopher of art, spoke of as non-discursive presentic immediacy. Non-discursive presentic immediacy is the presence of something that can affect consciousness, that can energize, that can alter consciousness, that can destabilize a kind of a stuck, more constrained homeostasis that is not the best homeostasis in the world, and that all homeostases have to die out of themselves, move in a heterostatic state, firm up a new higher state like morphological differentiation, and we're all cases of that in all sorts of social systems and planets and species. And so in this case, allowing yourself to get sleepy, as I did there before, the telltale sensation, was knowing I was ushering in, whether metaphorical or literal, I talked about that before, not being attached to that, ushering in something, moving myself, transmuting myself to more of a Bose-Einstein condensate, even if it's just like a placebo or a self-hypnotic suggestion that it's going on that makes things happen more. That's okay too. That works, but I think it's more than that. That I become more quantum coherent, which gives me access to what can be collapsed under the wave function. It's more the universal wave function. It's less the wave function of just a whole set of ideas or what I learned in college that I'm going to choose one thing out of by collapsing the wave function to tell you about right now. No, I'm letting God, the mind of God, I'm roaming over it. It's roaming through me. It's just sluicing. There's no boundaries. It's just, and this really is the neo-shaman. This is the role of the traditional shaman and the latter-day kind of homegrown, high-tech neo-shaman. That I've also written about and thought a great deal about, that a shaman can alter consciousness at will. A shaman can shuttle between the consensus reality and the physical reductionist agreed to norm reality usually. And thirdly, they're by moving from this reality to other realities, by means of altering consciousness at will and intentionally and consciously and under control. They can move between the sacred, the profane and the sacred, between this world and the larger, more encompassing transcendental, and the return alive, and so, with stuff, with goods, with like the bird with the olive branch coming back to the ark. They can bring stuff back to people here in this containment constrained device who need help like that. And the third criterion of the shaman, for me, is that they provide a service that is not otherwise provided in the culture, in the society. So there's a need for the shaman. All artists are shamans of sorts. In some cultures, like the American Indians, some of them, the madman, the traditional, DSM-4able crazy person is a shaman. They may not be very intelligible, they may not be much use to other people, but they defer to the fact that that person is in that midway zone between the worlds. And if they can't get back, or if it's not doing any good for anybody else, or they can't make products out of it, or intelligible, communicative, channel things from it, or whatever, things brought back to the ark, then they may be less valuable. But there are those of us who can do that. We can do that. We've been trained as artists. We can get the raw material, the inspiration, or the intuition, the indirect felt sense, the non-presenting discursive immediacy, and then sit down and do the not often thankless and not very easy work of encoding it into a symbolic communicative language system that can then be shared with others. To make the privately experienced publicly experienceable. I'm not asking for thanks, but that's what we've been doing for thousands of years.
The flood will come, but you must not forget the oracle. You can say